Hey guys, welcome to Herding Little Cows to the Glory of God. My name is Sarah, and this is the Cultivating a Biblical Home series. And just for those who haven't been following along, I'm Sarah. I'm married to Mark, and we have 10 kids total, but 8 kids at home. And as we've gone through this series, I've just wanted to share things that I would want to know back when we first started a family. How I would want to make our home a more biblical home than how I was raised, and what I would do with the knowledge that I have now, what I wish I had known then. So maybe someone's coming upon this series and they are a brand new married wife. Let's say you're 20, you just got married, maybe even no kids in the picture yet, and you're wanting to make sure that you start them out right. Maybe you're a parent who has a 14, 15, 16-year-old and you are just learning these truths. Maybe you just became a Christian. Maybe you've started going to a church where they're emphasizing more of having like a Christian life outside of the church, because there's a lot of people who believe that just going to church on Sundays is enough, but the Bible talks about walking in holiness. And so maybe this is something that's new for you, and just ways that I would start, or things to think about within your own home. So wherever you are on your journey, Mark and I learned much of this through our 21, almost 22 years that we've been married. And please don't think that we have it all figured out. These are just things that I am sharing because I think that they might be helpful. So in today's, I wanted to talk about the intentional family time that we talked about in another video, how to make time for your family to spend together. But then when you actually now have that time that you've done, where you've maybe you've gotten some kids out of sports or activities that were keeping people apart. Maybe you've now found time where you can plan to have family meals together. I don't know what that looks like in your home, but now you have this newfound time. What are you teaching your kids during that time? When you first start biblical parenting, biblical home, a lot of times I notice, and this was true for me, that I felt like I was just putting out fires. I felt like I was just going from one task to the next, telling this kid, okay, we're not going to dump that out. No, we're not going to play in the water. No, we're not going to do this. And I just went from person to person trying to maintain sanity, but I wasn't actually having time to instruct them in the things that were right. So now that we've sat down and we have this time together, what are things we're going to do to encourage this holy living? So one of those things is to really be careful with the words that you use, being careful that your words are building each other up. And when you see that your children are not using their words in that way, instructing them. This isn't supposed to be like trying to pick out every bad thing they say all the time. This is supposed to be looking at the words that you're using to set a good example, and then also looking for the words they're using and encouraging them when they are using their words right. And then when you do find them using their words improperly, having them, it might depend on your child or the age or whatever, but having them reword what they said, or telling them, no, maybe we should have said it this way. We have multiple ages in our house. So in our home right now, we have a 17-year-old all the way down to an 8-month-old. He's asleep on my lap. And when I notice one of the kids says something that is not nice, so, oh, you're such a liar, da 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 da, I ask the children to reword it, to not call names, I guess you would say. I ask the children they can point out, you lied about, but it may also have been that the child didn't lie. Like, we have a 3-year-old in our house. Sometimes he speaks something that is not true, but it's because he is ill-informed, not because he's lying, if that makes sense. There's a difference between I am trying to lie to you and I had the wrong information. If the child says, okay, we're gonna go outside to get in the car, and the other kid's like, no, you're lying, we're not leaving for 20 minutes. Well, the first kid probably wasn't lying. The first kid probably didn't know what the schedule was. So not using name calling. Oh, you're stupid. instead, oh, that's not the proper way we do this thing. Not using words that are belittling each other. We actually just read about this in Proverbs this morning. We were in Proverbs 11:17. I'm going to see if I can find it for you. But it was talking about not belittling your neighbor. It was actually Proverbs 11:12 was the verse. I remember it now. And the verse says, whoever belittles his neighbor lacks sense, but a man of understanding remains silent. So there are times within our home where my kids are talking to each other and what they're saying does not actually need to be said. Or what they're saying needs to be said in a different tone or needs to be stated in different words. And so for your house, you're probably going to have words that you approve of, disapprove of, all of those things. I think we can all agree that there are words that we should not use for each other. But I know certain families allow, let's say, potty words and other families don't. Whatever is right in your family. But the point of this is speaking to each other, teaching your children how to speak to each other, both by example in what you're doing. So praying that God would help you to use your words wisely, and also pointing out when your children are using their words wisely. Wow, I noticed that while you were playing that game with your brother, you were very encouraging when he was frustrated, that type of thing, and pointing out what they're doing wrong. So speaking to build each other up, making sure that the words that people are hearing are things that are going to build everybody up. If a child is doing a task wrong, let's say that they're trying to wash dishes, there are multiple ways to wash dishes. And so this is another thing. Sometimes we as parents want something done so specifically our way that we'll tell our children that they're doing it wrong when they're not actually doing it wrong. Washing dishes and not getting them clean is a wrong way. Washing dishes with an inch of water in the sink or with the whole sink full, neither of those are wrong as long as the dishes are getting clean. So trying to be careful that you're not telling your child they're doing something wrong when they're just doing it a way different than you. But if the child is doing something wrong, like let's say they're not getting the dishes clean in their washing of them, then saying to your child, oh, I don't know if you realize this, but if you actually put soap on the rag, it will help get the grease off the dishes. I'm just making up examples here. But that also builds up the other children who are overhearing that conversation, instead of going to the child that's in the kitchen and being like, oh, you're so stupid. Why can't you figure this out? Here, just let me do it. That doesn't help anybody in the household to learn how to speak to each other, but also doesn't learn how to help them do the task. So making sure that your words are building up and helping people to accomplish more, to do the jobs better, to work better together, I guess I would say. Speaking well of each other. When you are, this kind of goes past the cultivating the biblical home and it goes outside the home. But telling other people good things. I think as parents, we can complain to people, like maybe at church, someone's like, oh, how's your week going? Oh, the 4-year-old, he just won't sleep and he just won't pick up after himself and he da-da-da-da-da. That doesn't help anyone have a better opinion of your 4-year-old. If you're anything like what my 4-year-olds have been like, there's enough things that they do in front of people that are troublesome. Like maybe I'm not saying that I'm agreeing that they should do these things, but maybe they talk back. Maybe they hit a sibling. Maybe they're running in church. I don't know what the thing is, but the 4-year-old is probably doing something where somebody already has seen them do something wrong. So just complaining about the person doesn't help. This goes with spouses too, because as couples, we can easily be like, oh, my husband this week, he da-da-da-da-da. Nobody needs to think poorly about your husband or your children because of words that you're using to say how bad they are. Now, there's a difference in you're doing like counseling, or you're talking, let's say you are talking to the pastor's wife because there's a struggle that you're trying to deal with. There are times where Mark and I don't communicate well. For those who haven't watched, Mark has a neurological issue. So there's times that we don't communicate well. And so there's times that I might need to say, okay, this situation happened and here's what I did and here's what he did, so that I can find out where I was wrong in the situation. But for context, they need to know some of what happened on his end. But I'm saying in the just general complaining, we should speak well of the people in our family to the people outside the house. So when we are at church, when we are with friends, speaking well of each other instead of always downing people in our family. So encouraging your kids to do that too. Encouraging your kids, like I said before, oh, I saw that you were really good working with your sibling in that game when they were frustrated. But also giving them opportunity to say things either about themselves, and I don't want this to sound like I'm encouraging pride in my kids, but like, oh, did you tell grandma about the spelling test you took this week? Or having someone else, hey, Abigail, did you tell grandma about that really neat picture that Josiah drew you? That type of thing. Encouraging them to think well of their siblings, to share those things with other people. Also, encouraging your children to look to needs within the family and step up to help with those. Something as simple as a child notices that there's something on the floor. Let's say something was spilled on the floor. For the child to think, oh, I should go get something and clean that up, instead of, oh, someone needs to clean up this mess. But doing that also just through example of, oh, let's say I have a 4-year-old. I'm just going with a 4-year-old here. I don't actually have a 4-year-old in the house. Oh, Bob, I realized that there's something messy on the floor. Could you go grab me a rag? And then I'm going to help clean, like we're going to clean it up, or I'm going to clean it up. But just that idea of encouraging them to see a need and fill that need. Just looking around for how they can help each other. Oh, Abigail's making her bed. I could go help her. Oh, Malachi's looking for clothes. Someone could go help him. And just encouraging that working together philosophy. There are a lot of like group building games you can find online where like as a family, we like to play the game. We call it snowman instead of hangman. And so when you write your letters on the board, I mean your spaces on the board for how many letters are in the word, and someone guesses the letter, if it's the wrong letter, you write it down below, and then you make a body part of the snowman. So you're trying not to get the snowman fully built before you accomplish the word. But that's the thing where you're working together. You're trying to accomplish a goal. Maybe it is cleaning up a room is trying to accomplish a goal. Maybe it's making a supper, but where people have different parts of the job and everyone's working together, and using encouraging language during that, asking people to help encourage. And this might be just having 2 kids work together. So like Naomi and Abigail are my 2 girls in the house. So, hey, Naomi, Abigail's going to make supper. Could you help encourage her along the way? Help her like find the ingredients and all of that. And then just kind of listen and encourage, like listen for them to be encouraging each other and talk to them about that. Hey, Naomi, I realized that, you know, she didn't understand what you were saying. So you tried to reword it until she understood it. Just really listening to the children's speech to each other. And so that's kind of my point for today, is what to be doing during those times that you're now spending together. One of those things is to really be encouraging positive talk between each other. Also, when you're having these times together, making it time where you're actually learning more about your kids and your kids are learning more about each other. So maybe that is like conversation starters. You can find things. We have a couple different sets of these cards that ask questions like, if you were able to fly to any country, what country would you want to fly to and why? And it just gets the kids to start learning about each other. It gets the kids to start having an idea of what their siblings are like, because if you've been part of just the regular world culture of your kids are going off to school and being involved in every activity, and you know, at church they're always with their friends and stuff, they start to look at their siblings as kind of a lesser class, or I don't want to hang out with them because they don't whatever. So they don't actually spend time with their siblings and get to know about them. So having family games, doing family movie nights, and I'll talk about screen time in a little bit. Having family movie nights, like board games, card games, that type of thing. Going someplace together, just making memories as a family. And none of that has to actually cost you any money. Some of my favorite memories with my family, my dad would regularly start games where we would like take a balloon and like hit it around the living room, trying to keep it up. And we were all older, so this wasn't like crazy little kids. My sister and I are only a year apart. So I remember doing this as like 12, 13, 14-year-old. And we would just sit there and we'd hit it and, it goes the wrong direction and it would just be fun. Like we would sit and we'd play card games. We would do puzzles together where you could just talk while you're doing the puzzle. Maybe find some type of trivia game on something you like. Maybe it's Bible trivia. Maybe it's a sport that you like. Maybe it's a movie that you like. American presidents, geography questions, like any type of that. Just memories you can make. Doesn't have to cost money, but just things that you can do intentionally to get your family talking, getting your family to learn about each other so that they can see how everybody in the family can like different things, but also just enjoy each other. So I hope that makes sense. I have lots of good memories with my sister and my parents because I grew up in a family where we only had one at home. I now have another adopted brother and sister, but I'm thinking back to when I was a kid and living in the home. They came in after I moved. And it was times of just spending time together around the dinner table, asking what happened that day. Maybe some families do like a high and a low, like what was the high point of the day, what was the low point of the day. Maybe it's, like I said, the conversation questions. So I hope that helps somebody. What do you do to make family time fun, of ways to make new memories together? Let us know in the comments. We'll see you guys next time on Herding Little Cows to the Glory of God.